Hello and welcome ProITians. This session and the coming couple of sessions, we're going to touch base on topic about the network capabilities that Azure provides. Right now, till now, what we have covered is we have covered about the various other topics like virtual machines, deploying in which we deployed Windows virtual machine, Linux virtual machines, right? And we covered some topics about storage. And what are the capabilities of under storage which Azure provides, and the various other topics, right? So same way we are going to cover in this one, we are going to cover about Azure network capabilities, right? So Azure network capabilities are in four parts. So first one is your connectivity service, and we are going, in that we are going to look at how we can actually form the virtual networks or VNets, which we call as VPN gateways, virtual network NAT gateways, Azure BASTION, peering service, and so on and so forth. Then in the next session, we are going to talk about the application delivery service and application protection service. Now, these are all three of your main capabilities of networking which Azure provides, right? Now, what is the capability that Azure provides which is required for monitoring, right? Do we have any such capabilities in that, right? Let's have a look in this session. Thank you. Hello and welcome ProITians. So in this session, we are going to look at Azure Network Service overview, right? Great, let's get started. So the network service in Azure provides a variety of networking capabilities that can be used together or separately, right? So to start with, the first service that's part of the capabilities are the connectivity services. Now that connectivity service is used to connect Azure resources, on-prem resources, using any of the combination of those network service in Azure, that is virtual network or virtual WAN, express route, VPN gateway, virtual network NAT gateway, Azure DNS, peering service, and Azure Bastion. The second component of the capabilities of Azure Network Services are application product service. So it is used to protect your application using any or the combination of the network service in Azure, private link, denial of attack, DDoS, that is DDoS protection, firewall, NSGs, web application firewall, and virtual network endpoints. Now the third capability is application delivery services. So it actually helps in delivering applications in the Azure network using any or the combination of the network services in Azure Content Delivery Network, that is CDN, or Azure Front Door Services, Traffic Manager, Application Gateway, Internet Analyzer, and Load Balancer. Now on top of it, you would need a service that would be doing the monitoring part, right? So we have in Azure, there is the fourth capability, that is network monitoring, and that actually monitors network resources using any of the combination of network resources in Azure, such as network watcher, express route monitor, express monitor, or VNet terminal access point. Right, so these are all the capabilities of Azure Network Services. Now in this session, what we are going to do is we are going to cover in depth on the connectivity service, right? So let's get started with the connectivity service. So this section describes services that provide connectivity between Azure resources, connectivity from an on-premise network to Azure resources, and branch-to-branch connectivity in Azure, including VNet, virtual WAN, express route, VPN gateway, or virtual network NAT Gateway, Azure DNS, Azure Peering Service, and Azure BASTION. So let's talk about Azure Virtual Network, right? So Virtual Network enables Azure resources to securely communicate with each other over the internet and on-premise network. It actually is used to filter network traffic, and the use case scenario would be to route network traffic or restrict network access to resource or connect virtual networks, right? The next one is Express Route. It is useful for extending your on-premise networks into the Microsoft Cloud over a private connection facilitated by a connectivity provider. So the use case scenario for that will be create and modify an express route circuit, create and modify peering for an express route circuit, link a VNet to express route circuit, and configure and manage route filters for express route circuits. All right. The next one is VPN gateway. It actually sends encrypted traffic between an Azure virtual network and on-premise location over the public internet. So the use case scenario for VPN gateway would be site-to-site connections, VNet to VNet connections, and point-to-point connections. Right. Next one is virtual WAN. So virtual WAN optimizes and automates branch connectivity to and through Azure. So Azure regions serve as hubs that you can choose to connect your branch to. And the use case scenario for virtual WAN would be site-to-site connections and express route connections. All right. Let's move to the next one, that is Azure DNS. So Azure DNS hosts DNS domains that provide name resolution by using Microsoft Azure infrastructure. And the use case scenarios would be host your domain in Azure DNS, create DNS records for a web app, create an alias record for traffic manager, create an alias record for public IP address, create an alias record for zone resource record. Right. Next one is Azure BASTION. So Azure BASTION is used to configure secure and seamless RDP or SSH connectivity to your virtual machines directly in the Azure portal over TLS. So it actually works over the TLS connection. So when you connect via Azure BASTION, your virtual machines do not need a public IP address. There is no need for that. Right? The use case scenarios would be to create a Azure BASTION host, connect using SSH to a Linux virtual machine, or connect using an RDP to a Windows virtual machine. Right? The next one is Virtual Network NAT Gateway. That is actually used to create a NAT gateway to provide outbound traffic only. So it is only used to provide outbound connectivity for a virtual machine. So use case scenario would be create a NAT gateway that would help in connecting to out to the internet. Azure Peering Service. So Azure Peering Service, it's actually the new concept. That's why it's actually marked as preview. It actually helps in collaborating with service providers for optimal and reliable routing to the Microsoft Cloud over the public network. And the use case scenario would be to register Azure Peering Service. All right. Great. Now let's talk about Azure Virtual Network. Right. So Azure Virtual Network, or in short we refer to as Azure VNet. It's actually the fundamental building blocks for your private networks in Azure. Yeah, so you can use VNets to communicate between Azure resources, and that is actually used to deploy VMs and several other types of Azure resources to virtual network, such as Azure App Service environments, or Azure Kubernetes service, or Azure virtual machine scale sets. All right, let's move to the next one, that is communicate between each other. So you can connect virtual networks to each other, enabling resources in each virtual network to communicate with each other using virtual network peering. The virtual networks you connect can be in the same or a different Azure regions. Communicate to the internet. So all resources in the VNet can communicate outbound to the internet by default, right? So you can communicate inbound to a resource by assigning a public IP address or a public load balancer. So you can use this public IP addresses or public load balancer to manage your outbound connection, right? And then the next one is communicate with on-premise networks. So you can connect your on-premises computers and networks to a virtual network using VPN gateway or express route. So all these sort of concepts we're going to look in the coming slides. The next thing is about Azure Express Route, right? So these are all your connectivity case scenarios, right? Connectivity services. So we are still actually covering the connectivity services of Azure, right? So let's talk about Azure Express Route. So Azure Express Route extends an on-premise networks into a Microsoft cloud over a private connection that is commonly facilitated by a connectivity provider. Express route connectivity traditionally involves three distinct network zones, that is customer network, provider network, and a Microsoft data center. Alright, let's have a view of the diagram. So in this diagram you can see the number indicates the key network points. Okay, so this one is your that is the one number marked with 1 is your customer compute devices, right? So it could involve a virtual PC or a virtual machine, right? And then the number 2 is actually about your customer edge routers, right? And number 3 is your private that is PEs, and those are like CE facing or customer edge router facing, yeah, and that is actually referred to as PE, or actually it stands for provider edge routers or switches that are facing customer edge routers, right? And then this one, the fourth one is actually also referred to as PEs, but those are MSEE facing. So that's why it is actually also referred as PEs with MSEE facing. So, and now what is MSEEs, correct? So Microsoft Enterprise Edge Express routers. So that is for MSEEs, right? So, and actually consists of virtual network and your gateway, and also consists of the compute devices on the Azure VNet, right? Great. So these network points are referred by the associated number depending on the express route connectivity model, right? That is cloud exchange co-location, point-to-point Ethernet connection, or any-to-any network points. Okay, so network points 3 and 4 may be switches, or it could be layer 3 routers. Okay, great. Let's move to the next one, and that is Azure VPN Gateway, right? So Azure VPN Gateway helps you create encrypted cross-premises connection to your virtual network from an on-premise locations, or create encrypted connections between VNets. There are different configurations available for VPN gateway connections, such as site-to-site, point-to-site, or VNet to VNet. Each virtual network can have only one VPN gateway. However, you can create multiple connections to the same VPN gateway. When you create multiple connections to the same VPN gateway, all VPN tunnels share the same available gateway bandwidth. So let's talk about a virtual WAN, Azure Virtual WAN. So Azure Virtual WAN is a networking service that provides optimized and automated branch connectivity to and through Azure. Azure regions serve as hubs that you can choose to connect your branches to. You can leverage the Azure backbone to also connect branches and enjoy branch to VNet connectivity. Okay, so Azure Virtual WAN brings together many Azure Cloud connectivity services such as site-to-site VPN, express route, point-to-site user VPN into a single operational interface. Connectivity to Azure VNets is established by using virtual network connections. Right, as you can see out here, so you have various regions, and those are all they're serving as a hub that you can use to connect to branches. Yeah, connectivity to Azure VNets is established by using virtual network connections. Yeah, all right, now let's move to Azure DNS. Yeah, so Azure DNS is a hosting service for DNS domains that provide name resolution by using Microsoft Azure infrastructure. And by hosting your domain in Azure, you can manage your DNS records by using the same credentials, APIs, tools, and billing as your Azure services. Right? That's why we can utilize the Azure framework to manage the DNS. So Azure DNS is based on Azure Resource Manager, which provides features such as Azure Role-Based Access Control or Azure RBAC to control who has access to specific actions for your organization, activity logs to monitor how a user in your organization modified to a resource or to find an error when troubleshooting, and resource locking to lock a subscription, resource group, or resource. So locking prevents other users in your organization from accidentally deleting or modifying critical resources in Azure. Right, now let's move to Azure Bastion. So Azure Bastion is your fully managed platform as a service. So that actually provides you inside of your virtual network. It provides secure and seamless RDP or SSH connectivity to your virtual machines directly in the Azure portal over TLS. So it's actually using your HTTPS. Right? Features of Azure Bastions are RDP and SSH directly to Azure portal. So you can directly get to the RDP and SSH sessions in the Azure portal using a single click seamless experience. So you don't have to worry about how connecting to each and every virtual machines, opening different terminal sessions and all those, because you can use this feature to have it properly connected with a single click. Remote session over TLS and firewall traversal over for RDP and SSH. So Azure Bastion uses an HTML5 based web client that is automatically streamed to your local device, so that you get your RDP or SSH session over TLS on port 443, enabling you to traverse corporate firewalls securely. No public IP is required on your Azure VM. So Azure Bastion opens the RDP or SSH connection to your virtual machines using private IP on your virtual machine. So you don't need a public IP on your virtual machine. No hassle on managing NSGs. So Azure Bastion is a fully managed platform as a service component from Azure that is hardened internally to provide you secure RDP SSH connectivity. Protection against port scanning. Because you don't need to expose your virtual machine to public internet, your VMs are protected against port scanning by rogue or malicious users located outside your virtual network. Protect against zero-day exploitation. So hardening is one place only, right? But Azure Bastion is the fully managed platform as a service component, right? Because it sits in your perimeter of your virtual network, so you don't need to worry about hardening each of the virtual machines in your virtual network. So Azure platform protects against zero-day exploits by keeping the Azure Bastion hardened and always up to date for you, right? So let's have a look at the diagram. So as the figure shows the architecture of Azure Bastion deployment in this diagram, the Bastion is deployed in your virtual network, alright, and the user connects to the Azure portal over the TLS on any of the browser and on port 443 to Azure Bastion, and then Azure Bastion internally connects to the various virtual machines on port 3389, that is RDP port, or port 22, that is SSH port, right? So you don't need to configure the public IP on any of these virtual machines. Alright, let's look at the next one, that is Azure Virtual Network NAT Gateway. So Virtual Network NAT, that is actually full form is Network Address Translation. It simplifies outbound only, let me repeat, it simplifies outbound only internet connectivity for virtual networks. When configured on a subnet, all outbound connectivity uses your specified static public IP addresses. Outbound connectivity is possible without load balancer. You don't need a load balancer for connecting outside, right? Or you don't need a public IP. You can directly attach a virtual machine, right? NAT is regional by default, right? So when creating availability zone scenarios, NAT can be isolated in a specific zone under zonal deployment. All right. Now let's have a look at the last one, that is Azure Peering Service. So Azure Peering Service enhances customer service and customer connectivity to Microsoft Cloud such as Office 365, Dynamic 365, Software as a Service, and any other Microsoft service available on the public internet. Microsoft has partnered with internet service providers and internet exchange partners and software-defined cloud internet interconnect providers worldwide to provide reliable and highly performing public connectivity with optimal routing from the customer to the Microsoft network. With peering services, customer can select a well-connected partner service provider in a given region. So public connectivity is optimized for high reliability and minimal latency from cloud services to the end user location. Alright guys, so we have covered quite a bit in this session, and I know it was a long session, but yeah, this was the first session on the networking concepts about in Azure. So it was a bit long, but if you want some more information about this topic, then you can have a look on these links which are provided and go through those links to have more understanding on Azure. Alright guys, that's all for now, and I would actually request you to subscribe to the channel and click on the like icon if you're liking these videos. Alright, until next time, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.